shipping lanes. And he reported at night lights underneath the boat followed them. What the hell was that? We don't have a clue.
Oh, yeah, I believe it, too, because, I had a sailor on my show. Same thing. He looked out of his portal, and he saw that the water was lit up underneath, and he went out on deck, and he was looking, and it was like something was following the ship, and it was bright light, right, underwater, just following the ship. So what could that be?
Right, I know, and people will throw out USOs. Who knows? But I'm, wanting to, look at, something natural before I go out, in space. We have creatures in the ocean that are self-illuminating, but they can't come. They're in the depths, the deep depths. An anglerfish can't come up high enough for us to actually see through the water, or it would explode from the pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Or lack thereof. So yeah, what's out in our oceans? We don't know, and I'd love for people to pull up some really weird ancient stuff. Who wouldn't like to see a plesiosaur?
I would. But also this week, they were talking about Loch Ness Monster, and James, we were talking about it the other night. That they're now starting to think maybe the Loch Ness Monster is nothing more than a huge eel.
Yeah, sure enough.
Yeah, I saw that, but how big is huge? Because I think eels. Oh, I don't remember. 10 feet maybe is as big as they get, or maybe that's I'm over. Maybe I'm thinking of sturgeons get that big.
Well,
but it would be a new species of eel, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I seen the video they showed. It was roughly, if I had to guess, probably 8 foot, maybe. I don't know if that's considered giant, but that's what it looked like in the video.
That's a big eel.
I wouldn't want to run across it.
No, they're vicious.
Yeah, but I don't know, Loch Ness Monster. Now, isn't there something in our own country that they claim it's like a Loch Ness Monster? I just can't remember where.
Oh my gosh, there are things all over the place. There's Champ in Lake Champlain. That's in New York and I believe Vermont. There's and it goes up into Canada, I believe. There's the Tahoe Tessie. There's Pepin from a lake in Minnesota. It seems like almost every state has at least one of these stories of a monster that's like the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Now, isn't there some type of creature around Crater Lake, Oregon?
Crater Lake, Oregon. Oh, that's got all kind of stuff going on at Crater Lake.
Yeah, David Paulides has a lot of nice disappearing people from stories from from Crater Lake as well.
Yeah,
big time.
Now we're getting down to like about 10 minutes. What other creatures do you want to talk about?
Well, do you want to go? Do you want to go lizard? Do you want to go? Do you want to go wampus cat? Let's do some wampus cat.
Yeah, let's go that way.
In Alabama, and just in the South, in general, the wampus cat is a mountain lion-sized cat with 6 legs. They're reported to there are a number of high schools that have that as their mascot, which I think is awesome. But there have been reports over years of pets that have been killed in Alabama. Cats, small dogs. People are thinking, maybe it's a coyote, and other people say, well, you know what? No, it's. I saw a cat. I saw a cat do this. It's basically, again, mountain lion size. The legend goes, it's a Native American legend. The Cherokee woman was wanting to keep tabs on her husband because he went off on hunting trips all the time. So she dressed in the skin of a mountain lion and followed the hunting party into the woods. And she came upon the hunters, and they were sitting around a fire, and they were telling all sorts of stories that apparently the women weren't supposed to know. And the medicine man, they saw her and turned her into a cat. So she's cursed to spend eternity as a half woman, half mountain lion, and that's the origin story of the Wampus cat. A friend of mine I teach with is from Alabama, and told me a story that his grandpa used to blame missing chickens on a Wampus cat, even though he knew that it was his neighbor Booger who would come and steal chickens.
Yeah,
that's interesting. And where we want to go here? We got still a couple minutes left.
Well, there are. I put all sorts of different things in here. One of the strangest one was in Arizona. No, I'm sorry. It was New Mexico. I'm going to go New Mexico here, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, this took me 2 years to write this. A couple of gentlemen were flying. They were on a small airplane, and they landed atop of a butte. And on top of this butte, they found a creature which was squarish in shape, and it was translucent. It was semi-translucent, and it had a wound on it, and it was obviously wounded, and it was breathing, and it was having trouble breathing, and they had no idea what to make of this, and hell, I have no idea what to make of this. And they said a larger creature just, flew overhead. They noticed it because of the shadow, but it silently flew overhead and then came down and picked up with suckers, like an octopus, picked it up and flew away. And I would kind of discount this, except for I heard a story of a creature matching that exact description from a guy in California back about 20 years ago. He was doing some surf fishing at dusk, and he saw something wavering in the air, kind of like Predator from the Predator movies. And when it got closer, he saw this semi-translucent, squarish shaped, flying carpet-like animal flying overhead as he was fishing in the surf. So it's interesting that back when people were learning, starting to fly, that there was a lot of speculation that there were creatures that lived above the clouds that we just didn't know about because we'd never been up there. You know what? Maybe they were right.
Yeah, very possible. Because again, you talked about that pilot in Alaska. Thought there was another plane there, and it turned out to be a giant bird. Could you imagine you're in a cockpit of a small, like a Piper Cub, or I'm not sure what type of plane he was in, but you look out your side window and you see this bird with enormous wingspans, like 20 feet on each side. That would be enough to freak you out.
Well, absolutely. Something else that size, being another airplane, wouldn't be a concern. A living creature that size is terrifying.
Well, especially if it thought, hey, that plane could be a mate, and then kind of or a threat and attack it,
Yeah, it'd be a mate. That would be uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable, but it'd be a long drop down, though.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting down to just a few more minutes. I mean, what other books do you have out there, Jason, that we can tell the listeners about?
Well, I've got four. On the paranormal realm, my first one was Haunted Missouri. It's basically a tour guide of the haunted spots in the Show Me State. Most haunted books are about a lot of private residences, and I don't like that, because if I want to go out and see one of these places I wrote about, I don't want to get shot for trespassing. So every place I covered is open to the public.
That makes it a lot safer.
Yeah. So I had somebody call me, get a hold of me, and her mother was getting married and wanted to get married in one of the haunted spots I'd written about. So I gave her directions for her mom to get married in one of the haunted spots that I went to, which I find hilarious. Well, I wrote a book on shadow people back in 2009.
What's it called?
Where I explored the shadow people phenomenon from, scientific and religious viewpoints, and also have a lot of stories from people about their terrifying encounters.
And the name of the book?
It's Darkness Walks.
Okay, and it's still available on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon. It's still available at barnesandnoble.com and from the publisher, Anomalist Books.
Okay, and your other book?
My other paranormal one is I noticed that there were a lot of paranormal occurrences near where I lived, so I went in a 100-mile radius around my house and found all the paranormal things I could find. So I've got a Dogman account, a guy who built a time machine, Mike Markham, if that name rings a bell.
Hey, do you know what? He was supposed to come on my show, and back 2 years ago, I talked to him several times because Art Bell knew him because he was on Art's Bell show several times, and as you know, Art was my friend. And I had his phone number, but I lost it. He was going to come on my show and give us updates because he was going to actually try to get the time machine going again. And I really do believe his story. What do you think?
Well, I am. I'm convinced that he's convinced. And some of the people that I interviewed the some friends of his from when he lived around where I live. He doesn't live around here anymore, but they're convinced that he was dead serious. The man who arrested him, the sheriff's deputy who arrested him, talked with him, and he said, and the sheriff at the time, and they both said that when they had him in jail, because they arrested him because he stole power line transformers to power the device, but they were convinced that he was dead serious about time travel.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked to him for a good hour and pre-interviewed him, and if anybody, I really think he was trying to do it. The last I heard that he was getting a warehouse and he was going to, and then unfortunately I lost his phone number. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life.
You got to have backups. Put it in more than one place.
I'm sorry. but anyway, Jason, it's been really great having you on the show again. Again, people, American Monsters by Jason Offitt, Amazon. Check out all his other books. Again, it is a very good read, and you can then make a decision. Do these monsters maybe exist, or maybe some of them exist, or maybe none of them exist? But you know what? It's great entertainment, and it's a good read.
Nice
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I should start packaging this book with the one I wrote a few years ago. I wrote a parody survival guide called How to Kill Monsters Using Common Household Items.
Well, you know what? Next time you're on my show, maybe we should talk about that.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, Jason, you have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well. It started off terrific.
Okay, sir. You take care.
Okay. Good night.
Night. Well, James, you still doing okay?
I'm doing great.
Also, I want to tell the listeners out there, it's a great book. It's available now on Amazon. It's called Area 51, Warning, Keep Out. The reason why I'm saying this, next week on Night Dreams Talk Radio after dark, from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, before, we're on at 6, but between 7 and 9, we're going to have some top guests on Area 51. In fact, all of them has something to do with this book. You want to make sure you listen. Tell your friends about it because you're going to learn a lot about, Area 51 in the past all the way up to Area 51 now, what is actually going on. And I want to stress to everybody, don't ever, I should say, go on to Area 51. Don't ever even think about it, because the last person that did 5 months ago, he left in a body bag. Just remember that.
Yep.
So, James, I want you to have a great weekend. I'm going to be working in my studio this weekend and booking more guests on the show. We pick up another radio station as of Monday. We're not like where we were at 37, but we're going to be at 18.